Good evening and welcome back to the West Ham Network Extra. I am Alex and it's Chelsea on Saturday. Chelsea. We have good and bad memories from last season. We have great memories from the London Stadium. Some memories I'd rather forget from Stamford Bridge. Anyway, tonight I have brought on a Chelsea fan. And this guy, Alan, from Talk Football Podcast, is actually the guy who invited me on my very first podcast all the way back sometime last year. So I thought, I know him. He likes talking. We'll bring him on. So, further ado, I'm going to introduce you and bring on Alan, or Hodgie. What do I call you? Alan, is it Hodge?
Everyone calls me Hodgie. So, yeah, Hodgie. Yeah, I kind of took the mantle off my dad now. So he used to be the original Hodgie. Now I'm the Hodgie.
You're the Hodgie. Fair enough. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, it's been a long day, a busy day. But we're here, and I'm well chuffed to be coming on and talking about the upcoming game.
Yeah. Oh, so I mean, how you been feeling about Chelsea so far this season? I mean, you ended last season very strong, didn't you?
And, we did, and then we chopped our manager.
Yes. Oh no, that was crazy to me.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? When the Crystal Palace result was a bit disappointing, and obviously the Wolves game was phenomenal because particularly the second half, because we just came out and destroyed them second half. He made a couple of tactical changes and switches in the second half, and that performance felt a bit more congealed. The team was a bit more together, but then we get the Palace result. And a bit disappointing, but if we can iron out those fragilities at the back, we might do something.
Well, I think that's where I've kind of identified that Chelsea very, very dangerous going forward, especially with some of the attacking players that you've got. But defensively is probably where we really do need to try and attack. It's your vulnerable point, so we need to be very strong defensively on Saturday, but maybe try and go a little bit more attacking as well, because I feel like that's the vulnerable point of what I see of Chelsea anyway. Just a quick question, Sergey. If anyone has any questions that they would like to ask either myself or Hodgie, please leave them in the comments and just put Q at the beginning of it so I know that it is a question. And then at the end of the show, we will address those comments and answer some questions. Anyway, well, we'll kick on now, and we'll talk about the season so far. How have you felt about your start of the season in general?
I mean, in general, it still feels like a building process. I mean, that's always going to be the case, and it's the same for you guys, obviously, with a new manager. I like the ideas of what Maresca wants to do. It's whether or not the players can actually adapt to that and do it. And in parts, particularly defensively, as you touched on, it looks a little confusing. They're not quite sure or understanding the roles that they need to do, particularly the inverting of the fullbacks, which is obviously something that the Maresca would have worked with under Pep. It's something that he did with Leicester, obviously, in their promotion season, but it feels that Cucurella, he's well versed in that sort of setup because that's how he plays with Spain. Particularly, we saw that in the Euros. Very successful at doing it. It's whether or not we can get our right side of the pitch to be able to do that. Whether it's Reece James or Malo Gusto, probably Malo Gusto because Reece James is always injured.
He makes half an hour cameos here and there these days, doesn't he?
This is it, yeah, once a season.
Yeah.
I've got some thoughts on that, and I'll share them later when we talk about players and stuff like that. But I mean, there's the balance, and it's also when you want to play that system, it's about getting that midfield structure right. That when one of them does invert, that you're not crowding the space as well. And I felt that we don't really transition that part of the play well at the moment, but it's a work in progress. It can come. Yeah.
So I mean, you've had, I'd say, a decent start of the season. Obviously, first game of the season, you lost against Man City, and I watched the game. I thought Chelsea played pretty well. You were just outclassed by Man City. I know exactly. Like we played them. They were they've been class so far this season in the Premier League. They genuinely have. They were absolutely insane against us.
They've made a frightening start. They really have, and they don't normally.
Yeah, you had to obviously then qualify for the Conference League, the competition that West Ham win. No other Premier League club can. And you won the first leg 2-0, didn't you? You lost the second leg 2-1. I didn't watch any of the games. I'm assuming that you did play a weaker team. Obviously, there was no. I don't know. Did Cole Palmer? You didn't register Cole Palmer in your
not
for
the upcoming group stage. No, so for the upcoming group stage, he's not available. He hasn't been picked. But yeah, we were pretty strong though against Servette, again, away from home in particular, which worries me on the road. It was shaky at the back, attacking wise. If we put together, we're going to hurt many teams. But it's whether or not that we can withhold that fragility at the back. I'm not convinced in Sanchez as our number one keeper. I don't like that at all. So, but yeah, I mean, that aside, Premier League's been all right.
Because
I mean, a bit hit miss.
Yeah, in between those games, you had a fairly convincing 6-2 win over Wolves, didn't you?
Well, do you know what? It wasn't convincing. The scoreline really doesn't tell the story because Wolves could have been ahead. They had a couple of chances to go ahead in the game, and it literally they just seemed to run out of steam in that second half, particularly with the changes he made. Bringing Neto on at half time was key because it gave us that width and it pinned their fullbacks back. But what I was saying with the whole inverting of the fullback, Malo Gusto was trying to invert, and then that was exposing Fofana to Aït-Nouri and Cunha in particular, and they isolated him. And because Malo Gusto had been tucked inside the left-hand side of the pitch, we were just getting run riot. And if he does that against West Ham, we're going to be in big trouble. Trouble, particularly if Somerville plays. So.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the interesting thing for us at the moment is who is going to play down that left. Mostly it's been Kudus so far this season, and after what you've just said there, I mean Kudus could do some real damage down that left-hand side. So could Somerville as well. He could, but maybe a Kudus against Cucurella on the other side.
That's going to be an interesting battle with the form that Cucurella's in at the moment. It's going to be a good battle. That will. I am looking forward to that.
Yeah, it all depends on how we go with, because that's the one thing about us at the moment. We have no idea what team we're going to see line up, and you would probably assume that of Chelsea. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of talks about the amount of players that Chelsea have. Obviously, it's not as huge as some people make out because there's loads, there's youth players, and all this. It was all being made out to be a lot more than it probably was. But
I mean, it's a lot, but yeah.
Still, I mean, do you see yourself having a settled starting kind of lineup now? I mean, can you envisage what the starting lineup would be?
I can envisage. I mean, for me, I know there'll be a lot of Chelsea fans that will probably disagree with my points of view. Personally, I think we played better without Enzo Fernandez. My first choice too, is like the 6-6 / 8 pivot would be Lavia and Caicedo, because I think that they just bring the energy and they bring the pace, particularly on counters and transitions.
Lavia has impressed me this season.
But again, injured again. I don't know how long he's going to be out for. Apparently, it's not that bad. So they have returned to training. Whether or not they're in contention for the squad for Saturday, I'm not sure yet. We'll find out as over the next 1 or 2 days. But yeah, I mean, obviously Enzo, Dewsbury Hall, they've all had issues with a few injuries over this past week or so. So it remains to be seen who he goes for. But me personally, that's who I personally start in midfield.
Yeah.
Because I think when you do get that invert, I think Caicedo, when he was at Brighton, he actually played a fair bit at like a right wing back sort of position.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll get to predicted starting lineups a little bit later, but just want to have a quick note about all your new signings so far this season, and I want to ask you some questions about what you think of our transfer window and things like that. But we'll start off with your new signings first. I mean, I'm just going to name you already mentioned Dewsbury Hall there. Because you bought in Neto, João Felix. Yeah. and also Jordan Sancho as well. So, yeah, I
Now
mean,
that's the one that excites me.
yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of. He's always had. He just there's a lot of promise there.
Yeah,
He just needs the right manager
you've hit the nail
to
on the head.
be able to understand him. But I do feel that there is. I always thought that Eric Ten Hag did have some sort of a point there if he does have that laziness to him, and I think that's something else. Excuse me, that lets him down a little bit sometimes.
Yeah, when he came on against Bournemouth, actually, he was the game changer. So Neto really wasn't getting anything out of it in the first half, and then when he brought Sancho on, you know, the driving runs, the retention of the ball in particular, knowing when to make those movements and look for the striker and playing the clever passes through the pockets. He really did change the game for us in that, and it obviously, you know, he had the assist for Kunku's goal as well. So he's the one I'm really excited about, because if we can unlock the Jadon Sancho of his 2 spells at Dortmund, we get a fantastic player, and he really ain't going to cost us a lot, because it is a loan to transfer. So I think depending on appearances, etc., it's somewhere in the region of 20 to 30 million. Bearing in mind how much United actually paid for him, I mean, that's a bit of a bargain. And he's still only 24. You know,
he is still quite young. He definitely is still quite young. So I mean, also you've got João Felix. Obviously, had already been at Chelsea one before. Now he's there permanently.
Yeah, we like him.
Was a huge amount of transfer fees have been paid for him in the past. Huge amount of money.
112 million. He went to Atletico. You know.
Yeah, and I just he's always again. It's a player that is
potential.
There's potential there, but will he be able to? Recognise it at Chelsea.
I think my sorry, I'm just getting attacked by a fly. My thing, I think, with him is whether I think he's got the skill, he's got the movement. That's unquestionable, but it's whether or not for me he can adapt to the physicality of the Premier League. If he can get that, and we give him a bit of time to do that, I think we unlock a very, very good player there. And I do think whether or not he's a consistent starter, I'm not so sure, because it's kind of where do you fit all these pieces of the puzzle in. And we all know that Palmer, when fit, particularly in the Prem games and probably like FA Cup, etc., he's going to be a starter. Seems to kind of like Madueke out on the right. So where does that kind of leave in Kunku and João Felix, where they're going to fit in, whether you play them as false nines and not play Jackson, etc. So, but again, I mean, for the money, 40 odd million, I just think it's out of all the signings we've made, and we've made some really daft ones, and paid some really daft amounts of money. Particularly Sancho, Felix, they could be really clever signings, especially given the injury record of getting Kunku and that as well. So,
because obviously you brought in quite a few players last year. You mentioned Enzo Fernandez, mentioned Caicedo, Mudryk as well, who I don't think he's very highly rated by a lot of Chelsea fans. I know he's not highly.
It's such a frustrating thing with him though, because you can see he's got the tools, but he doesn't know what he doesn't. It's like he's got a big bag of tools and he doesn't know what to do with them, and it's really frustrating because you just every now and then, and you see this, and you've probably seen this down the years with players at West Ham. You just see that little spark, and you think, just why can't you be consistent? Why can't you do that? And the thing is, it frightens people. Yeah, well, frightens people with his pace. He'll run in behind days like, and his work ethic is phenomenal. I can't question that, but there's just no end product. That's the problem.
Yeah. It seems that you can use the word potential to describe the majority of your players at the moment.
Yeah, well, we've got the youngest squad in the Premier League.
Yeah, because of the transfer policy that Chelsea have had at the moment, which is don't sign anyone under the age of 24 or something like that, isn't it? Basically,
yeah, it's kind of that. It's basically hoovering up as much potential, and they say if you hoover up, say, 10 really promising young players who are going to fit the wage structure, potentially have a mega resale if it was like a Barcelona, Real Madrid down the line, etc. And then if 5 or 6 of those come good, brilliant. The rest of them you farm out on loan, So we've been doing this for years, but this whole loan thing, this is not a new thing. Roman pioneered. At one point we had something like 47 players out on loan, and I think the income was somewhere in the region of about 100 million. So it's not
ridiculous.
It's one way around PSR, other than selling hotels.
Well, yeah, I mean, you tend to. I mean, I said this to a mate the other day. I said sometimes I look at Chelsea and I don't see a football club anymore. I see a business that buys and sells stock, and it's a business that has a football team where they buy these players quite young, and they either reach their potential and fit into the Chelsea side, or they don't quite, but they sell them on for a lot more, or a little bit more than what they make some money, and then it's just reinvest. And I think a lot of teams do.
Brazilian players recently, we did the same, and we've knocked them on for a bit of a profit out to Saudi, etc.
Yeah, there's been a few, and then sending on players like Conor Gallagher, which
I'm gutted on that. But yet again, you were talking about 50-50 splits. I mean, the Chelsea fan base is really split with that. I mean, I'm gutted because you want to see homegrown talent in the team.
Yeah, you do.
No, is Conor Gallagher world class? No. Does he give you everything in the shirt and give you a 7 out of 10 every week? Well, yeah. And would you want that over a player that's might have all the talent in the world but just doesn't give it? Don't make that 10-yard sprint, whereas Gallagher will break his neck for you. But having said that, he was offered 2 contracts. He turned them down. He wanted more money. The clubs stuck to what they were offering, and what his role within the squad would be. They were very open with that, and he decided that he weren't going to take that offer. So it is what it is. We said, well, if an offer comes in, we're going to let you go.
Yeah,
so it is what it is.
No, it is. No, it is what it is. And I think sometimes when you look from the outside, this is why I like to talk about these things rather than just assume a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Because you look from the outside and it can look so much worse than it actually is.
Yeah.
So it is with the Conor Gallagher situation. It's like from the outside, it looked like Chelsea were treating him absolutely terribly. And I still think there was an element of that a little bit, because
I think agents have a big part to play in this, though, don't they?
He wanted to stay, just Chelsea didn't want to pay what he wanted to stay. Yeah. Basically,
that's the crux of it.
Yeah.
We have this wage structure, and no one's getting beyond that wage structure. We've managed to farm off, albeit, for instance, like Sterling was on like 325 grand a week, and we've managed to farm a big portion of that off, sending him on loan. We are supplementing that wage, but we've got a big chunk of that off.
I think you're paying more for him to play at Arsenal than Arsenal are paying for him to play at Arsenal. Yeah.
But it gets around about 150 grand of that off of our wage bill, which brings in 2 young players on the current wage structure. So there is a trade-off to it. Lukaku getting off the books was another big one as well.
Do you know what? You forget, I forgot that Lukaku was still a Chelsea player. At some point in the transfer window, it's just like, he is, isn't he? He's still a Chelsea player. He just doesn't play for them.
It was easy to forget he was a Chelsea player when he was actually at the club.
Well, yeah, this is a good point. And I hate Lukaku because he always used to score against West Ham United. So I'm quite glad that he is outside of the Premier League now.
Yeah.
I definitely am. I mean, look, we've got to talk about, obviously, the game of the weekend, and obviously different game than games that have been played in the past. Last season, two very different games and two very different results. Yeah. You came to the London Stadium. We won 3-1, even though we went down to 10 men, and then we went to Stamford Bridge and we lost. Anyway, so moving on to
we're not going to talk about the scoreline, no.
No, we could talk about the scoreline if you want. Look, I've done 3 of the chats so far. I've done one. I didn't do one with a Fulham fan, which was, thank God for that, because we lost 5-0 against Fulham last season, which I didn't want to do. But I done one with a Palace fan where we lost 5-2 last season. Yeah. One with a Villa fan where we lost 4-1 last season. So so far we just play teams that just battered us last season at some point. You know, and I can't remember. Was it 5? It was 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've
It's
tipped big
5.
things. I've tipped big things for West Ham this season. I said it live on my podcast as well, and I'm sticking to my guns on that.
I mean, we've drastically improved our team. We had. There is
I
absolutely.
really like the signings. I mean, I know we've talked about Chelsea signings, but I mean, you've had an impressive window.
Yeah, I mean, there is no question.
Practically a new forward line. You know, it's
nearly. I mean, we could practically have a whole new midfield, new midfield, and a whole new defence. Like the only defender that has managed to survive the cull has been Emerson, basically, and you're well aware of Emerson, ex-Chelsea player, of course.
Yeah,
Zuma has finally moved on with his dodgy knees.
He's out kicking cats in Qatar or wherever it is.
Qatar, Dubai, Saudi Arabia. I don't know. He's in the Middle East. He had to go through extensive medical tests to get him out there, but he's out there. And I think we actually had to pay a club to take him off our hands. But then there's no more Zuma now. But we brought in Max Kilman, and so
Max
far
Kilman's
I feel
a very good signing. I think that's a sensible. So obviously, it's someone the manager knows as well, which is ideal.
He's thoroughly impressed us so far.
Yeah. Tadebo's a solid player and all. I'm
really hoping to see him at some point.
Yeah, I mean, he was strongly linked with Liverpool and all, and then obviously, you guys got in there and got him. So
I feel like that was the biggest coup of the summer, bringing him in. But so far, we haven't really seen a lot of him. We've seen half an hour of him against Bournemouth, and we've seen little cameos at the end of some games. So I'm really hoping that he's in the starting lineup against Chelsea, because Mavropanos has been concerning us. He had a really poor game against Fulham, but we'll have to wait and see there. Also bringing in Wan-Bissaka, which is another signing which I think has been absolutely brilliant. Absolutely love the guys already.
Mistreated and misunderstood at Manchester United, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I always liked him at Man United anyway, even though he probably was, as you said, a little bit maybe mistreated, but.
Yeah, expect him to do things that which is not his game. I think when he was at Palace, arguably as a one-on-one right back defending, you'd arguably say he was probably at that time the best defending right back in the league. I would say, before he got his move, and then of course he goes to United, and then they're asking him to do, be this like all out up and down attacking fullback, and it just wasn't his game. His best attributes are his one-on-one defending.
Yeah, no, I do. But I mean,
very difficult to get past.
So far, what we've seen from him, though, he has been getting forward. He has been doing all right getting forward so far. It wasn't his best game against Fulham, but I don't think anyone really put in a solid performance against them, if I'm being honest. But
he's a good age and all.
Yeah, no, he is. He is a good age. I mean, I don't think we've drastically reduced our average age of our squad, but we have, as I say, drastically improved in nearly every area. Like defence, 100%. Our defence just looks so much more solid than it did last season. Because, as you know, like we conceded 5 against you, 5 against Fulham, 5 against Palace, 4 against,
set pieces were a big thing for you guys particularly last season. Set pieces was a real problem, particularly from like corners, etc. So many goals from set pieces.
Yeah, so hopefully we fixed our defensive problems, or we've definitely helped that situation. And then going forward, bringing in players like Rodriguez in the middle, who has been starting pretty much every game so far. He looks really decent.
Soler on loan is a good addition as well. Experienced midfielder. Probably didn't have his best time at PSG, but yet again, there's a good player to I keep saying this phrase, unlock. And yet again, a lot of the people that particularly a lot of players we've signed, these are players that can do a job. We just need the right framework for them to be able to get the best out of them. Yeah,
and that's the question. If our manager Lopetegui is going to be able to, because obviously he is a big change for us so far this season. Bringing in Lopetegui, I think the jury's out with a lot of West Ham United fans still. We're going to give him time, give him a chance.
I mean, he's quite. I mean, I know that they wanted to go down a more of a playmaking style with West Ham, away from the complete sort of pragmatism of David Moyes. But from what I saw from Lopetegui, like at Wolves, etc., he is quite a pragmatic manager, quite a structured manager. So I don't think it's going to be completely like free flowing football. I think
No.
it'd be slightly more attack. I think in games where you are on top, he's probably, as opposed to Moyes, where you might get that one goal lead or whatever, and then he'll try and shut shop. I think Lopetegui's more likely to, maybe try and get the second, kill games, etc. Rather than sit back and then sort of like backs to the wall defending. But I think he'd be more progressive in that terms. But he's not like an out and out attacking manager, free flowing. So it will be an adjustment.
Yeah, I think that's one of the differences that we saw against Manchester City in the game that we played there. We weren't just sitting back; we were pushed back, very much so by Man City. But when we had the opportunity, we weren't just sitting back; we were trying to take the game to them a little bit more, which is not easy against Man City. But that was one of the big differences we saw because we knew what to expect. So nearly every single West Ham United fan I spoke to after that game said that we come away from it actually for once disappointed that we didn't get something out of the game, which usually it's not. It's usually we come away from it and just go, it's Man City, move on. But no, this time it's kind of felt, we feel like we had an opportunity to get something in our game. So there's definitely been positives. There are some negatives. Starting lineups has been one of them for us so far. Starting lineups have really confused us.
I mean, where'd you land on with Ward-Prowse and the way he was treated? I mean, do you think he was a player that should have been kept around?
I was surprised that we let Ward-Prowse go, personally, because he did contribute quite a bit last season, especially in the first half of the season. Yeah. Not so much in the second half. And it came out that apparently Tim Steidten, technical director, last season wanted to bring in Fofana from Monaco, but David Moyes wanted James Ward-Prowse, and we ended up going with James Ward-Prowse. And we'll wonder if that had something to do with him being let off on loan, because to a lot of West Ham fans, like, we were looking at him thinking, here's a player that probably suits a passing game a little bit more than someone like Thomas Souček, for example. And I feel like that's probably a little bit of surprise, but bringing in someone like Carlos Soler, you kind of, but you lose those set pieces basically, which is not the way that we're aiming to play, but it's still good to have a set piece specialist in there. Which,
of course,
we've got other players who do it. I love Souček. I do, but he drives me mad. It just drives it. He's great in either box. Just in the middle, does nothing. Just does nothing.
Minus the afro, he actually reminds me a little of Fellaini.
Yeah. I can see that.
A bit of a lump.
No, I mean he could be. I think him and as well as Antonio as well. It'd be great as bringing players on later on in the game, just to try and get a goal, try and cause havoc in their defence. I think both of them could be really influential in doing that role rather than starting the game. Personally,
there was a player, a young Brazilian you signed, Guilherme, the winger.
Yeah.
I haven't seen too much of him, but I mean he's potentially high rated. Has he not got anywhere near the squad?
Hasn't even been on the subs bench yet.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, he's 18 years old.
Yeah, it's plenty of time.
We have spent 25 million on him.
Yeah.
So I am surprised that he hasn't. I mean, he wasn't even in the squad for our League Cup game, where I thought we may see him at least on the bench. He may be on the bench. I think he has been on one bench actually, but no, he hasn't come. He hasn't come on at any point yet. Did see him a little bit in pre-season. It's really hard to judge though in pre-season, and didn't really see much from him at all. But apparently one for the future. So we may see a little bit from him in this season. I think eventually he'll go into the under 21s just to keep match fitness and get some game time. But I
haven't seen any results, etc., or lineups, etc. But Fulkrug, has he got many minutes?
He had a 15, 20 minutes in the Villa game and the Palace game. Did start the Bournemouth game, but we didn't play particularly well in that game. No one did. And so he did lack getting any service. He did look all right when he came on against Palace. Did look decent.
He's a good player. He's a player I like.
Yeah. And Man City got on for a little bit as well. But then he picks up a small injury on international duty, so he missed the Fulham game. I do believe that he will be back for Saturday's game, though. I do believe. And
okay.
Hopefully we do get to see him a little bit more. I think he's a player who just needs a little bit of time.
I mean, given how fragile we are at the back, particularly on crosses, etc., I don't want to see him playing because I think he could hurt us a lot.
Well, there we go. That's what we need. Like Lopetegui, stick him out there. Stick him up there.
Kudos and Somerville pinging crosses into Fulkrug, and then we're in trouble.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
Yeah.
No, so. What's it? Right, so yeah, where was I? I completely lost where I was there for a minute.
Yeah, I've lost your train of thought now. I took you off on a tangent.
You did a little bit. So let's talk some predicted lineups. I think I've already mentioned it. It's really hard to predict our lineups at the moment. I think we know for sure that we're going to have Areola in goal. Emerson is a little bit up and down at the moment because he did go off injured in the last game, but there's rumours he could be back, so he may start at left back, or it could be Aaron Wan-Bissaka starting at left back, or it could be Aaron Cresswell starting at left back. We're not entirely sure. Kilman will be in there, and that's all I really can guess about our defence at the moment because it does depend on who's fit and who's not. So we could see Southall at right back, and Aaron Wan-Bissaka at right back. We're not 100% sure, but I think Emerson should be okay. So hopefully he will start. It'll be Kilman. Hopefully. It'll be good to see Todibo and Wan-Bissaka at right back. Midfield, I reckon we'll go with the double pivot of Alvarez and Rodriguez, how we have been going so far, just to try and play a little bit more defensive with probably Paquetá in the number 10. And I hope that it's Kudus on the right, Somerville on the left, and Bowen up top. But I've just got this fear that Antonio and Souček are going to be squeezed in there somewhere. But I mean, what about yourself? I mean, what's your defensive?
I mean, I don't think. I think it might be a bit too soon for Malo Gusto to return, but I'm hopeful. They have, like I said, they have been out on the training pitch recovering. I don't think he's going to start Malo Gusto. I don't think it's not worth the risk, not with Reece James still out injured. So Sanchez will be in goal. I'm pretty sure on that. And then Cucurella left back. It should be Colwell and Fofana at the centre half positions. And I do think he probably is going to start Disasi at right back, which would be a disaster. Personally, I would prefer if Fofana covered that role and we brought Tosin into the back four. I thought when he came on against Bournemouth, he was composed on the ball. Best minutes in the Chelsea shirt. I think in midfield, I think he might go again with Caicedo and Vega to bring the physicality. Because yet again, I don't think it's probably a bit too soon for the likes of Enzo and obviously Lavia to be back. So I think that'll be the double six, if you like, in there. And then I would think, yet again, I think he's probably going to go Madueke on the right, Palmer in the 10, probably start Neto, although he could start Sancho on the left side, and then Nico Jackson through the middle. I think Felix and then Kunku will be on the bench. So, yeah, I think that'll be what he'll go with. It would make sense.
That's pretty much what I was kind of expecting that Chelsea would do, especially up top. I mean, the midfield is very much a question, obviously, because of your injuries. You did have a lot of injuries last season, didn't you, as well? So,
yeah. I mean, it's nice to see Fofana back playing. I mean, he's had an awful time. We spent a lot of money on him from Leicester, 75 odd million, and we barely got 3 or 4 games out of him before he had, serious injuries as well. So to come back from that and to have a really good start to the season, I'm really pleased to see him back. So
Yeah.
Fofana for me, that's a big positive for us this season.
So I'm just going to stick something up. Is that pretty much what you reckon your starting lineup
I think that's how we start. Possibly, given how better we were when he made the changes, you could see Tosin Adarabioyo come in for Disasi and then start Fofana in the right back position with Tosin alongside Levi Colwill. Other than that, I think that pretty much. I mean, yet again, maybe he might start Sancho, but I would think, given the limited minutes that he's had in recent times, he'll probably start with Neto. Yet again, I don't think Mudryk even makes the matchday squad. So
No,
no, I don't think so.
No, but it was just, it should be interesting. I mean, if you had to, I mean, your record at London Stadium hasn't been particularly good.
Not bad.
It's
not bad, and it's not good. You know.
No, I mean, last 3 games, I think we've had 2 wins, one draw. After I think there's a loss. I think we've lost twice. There's been a few draws, but I think.
But we've
I did have a look up on it earlier.
We have played well, which, you know, on away games we can be a bit in and out, but we have played well at the London Stadium. It's not always, you know, results haven't gone our way, despite you going down to 10 men and stuff like that. But I'm hopeful, but I mean, if you want a prediction out of me, or do you want me to wait for that?
We'll do predictions at the end. We'll do predictions at the end.
Okay. There'll be goals in the game. I've no doubt. I think there'll be goals at both sides. There'll be goals in it. I don't think. I know someone earlier on the live chat predicted a ball draw. I don't think that's going to happen. Not the way we both defend.
No, this could actually be the first game this season where I don't predict West Ham to draw, because I predicted that we would draw. Apart from the Man City game, I predicted us to lose. I'm not going to predict a draw because it doesn't tend to work that way between us. But no, some of my best games at home have been against Chelsea over the years.
It's been a good fixture. We've had some really good games down the years.
When we're winning the games through, you know, crossing the ball into the box, brilliant goals, and
and obviously there's been a few players that have traded shirts over the years, and so it's always been quite lively, you know. Oh God, some of the. We sent some pretty average and bad ones your way, and we tend to we've nicked a couple of really good ones.
I mean, over the years, like Joe Cole.
Glenn Joey Johnson, and Frank, obviously Glenn Johnson.
Frank, of course. Connor, Frankie Lampard. We got Emerson from you. We're happy with him. We love him.
Yeah, he's all right. Do you know?
I think he's such an underrated player. It just gives everything each game, and puts in solid performances. Obviously, we did get Zuma, who was okay, and then wasn't. And there's been a few over the years. There definitely has. There definitely has. It's going to be an interesting. Should be an interesting game. So it's always seems to be a 12:30 kickoff, doesn't it?
I think that's probably a fan issue.
Yeah,
not for us. We're completely well behaved individuals.
We are.
Never shout at the referee or anything like that. I mean, I said it on my podcast when I had Adam on my last episode, and we went through every Premier League team's key transfers, etc. And I predicted West Ham as my surprise team of the season. I do believe I'm going to stick by it. I could end up being an absolute muppet, and my score so far in the Fantasy Premier League will probably say I don't know much about football, but I do think you're going to be this season's Aston Villa. That was my prediction. I had you down for that one team that makes that push for the top 4.
I'd love to think that that would actually happen. I do think we eventually will kind of get it together, and we will make a push for Europe. The top 4, I'd love that. I can't see it happening. Maybe not this season. Maybe
I just think there's so many competitive teams in and around, say, like, you know, the top 8 teams and that, and there's a lot of teams that have strengthened quite well. you never quite know, like the likes of Liverpool, how they're going to fit with a new manager, etc. Already, So I think that there's an opportunity. I don't think United are going to be particularly great again this season because they've kept Ten Hag. I think Villa's, because they've got the European, thing going on with the Champions League. I think there's just an opportunity for a team to come from, a top 8, top 6 position to really have a little knock at that top 4. And with the signings you've made, which impressed me, I do think that you are positioned to do that.
No, we do.
Picking up West Ham.
I know. It's very kind of you. I do think Chelsea will have a decent season. I also think that there's going to be dodgy games here and there, but I think every team. I think that's the
you get that with young players. You get inconsistencies.
Yeah, and that is the one problem when you've got such a young squad. There is that inconsistency, because consistency does come a little bit more with age most of the time. Yeah. Most of the time, anyway. But Chelsea are going to be a team who could go into a game who could win 6-0 or lose 6-0 or lose 3-0. You know what I mean? It could be very much. I think that's what you're going to get. And with Maresca, not too sure how it's going to go. So far, he seems to. A lot of the players have seemed to kick on from where they left off last season.
They're buying into it. I mean, the body language suggests that they're all with the manager. And I think as a group of players, when a new manager comes in, you kind of get a bit of a feel instantly on the training ground, in and around the club. We're buying into this guy, and we're going to really stick with this and believe in what this guy's doing. We like, when the sessions are good in training. I mean, if you've played football to any kind of level where you've trained regular with coaches and etc., you get a feel instantly with what happens on the training ground, whether or not, and that don't necessarily automatically mean that transitions into results on the pitch, but at least if you have that, if you feel you have a bond and you feel that the training, etc., is going in the right direction, that eventually it will all come right and everything will fit in. And that's the balance. That's the balance, is keeping everyone on board and that. And if you keep that, and I do think he's an arm around the shoulder manager as well. I don't think he has that harshness, which yet again with some of the players, particularly like Sancho, Felix, and Nkunku, I think that they will thrive off of that. And I think even when they're not playing, you'll get the best out of them. Best attitude on the training ground, best attitude in the stadium on a Saturday. Yeah,
no, I think it should be it should be a decent game. I just kind of want to just talk about what's kind of going on with Chelsea at the moment. Obviously, the top 8 and all that. We can't get away without just having a little chat about it.
Right, so I mean,
I do find it really intriguing. Just before we start that, if anyone does have any questions that you want to ask either me or Hoshi, please put them in the comments, and we'll come to questions at the end. So if anyone does, but
I've noticed a few queues there. There's a few queues on the list.
So I'm gonna have a little. I have been trying to look for them. I was just looking for something quickly. I can't find it. Where is it?
I mean, in terms of our ownership structure at the moment, on the face of it, and from an outside perspective, it looks a complete mess. But there's things to bear in mind. So Clearlake are the majority owner of the club.
Yes,
they own something in the region of about 55-60% or whatever it is. Todd Bowley's actual share percentage of what he owns is relatively small. So you've got him, Mark Walter, and Jörg Weiss. They all own around about 10-12% each, and then Clearlake own the rest. So in terms of actual decision making at the club, Clearlake are the ones that really pull the string. Although Bowley's been this kind of figurehead, he's not really the one that actually gets to make the key decisions. Initially he did, because he was kind of installed as like an interim sporting director, and then we made the key. So we spent loads and loads of money under him. But it's now we have proper dedicated sporting directors in, and I think we'll see a better direction from the club. But having said that, Clearlake want to buy out Bowie's percentage and take a bigger ownership level in the club, and equally Todd wants to buy up more of his percentage and increase his power share. So it's a bit messy. But ultimately, at the moment, as it stands, Clear Lake are the clear leaders in terms of decision making, which is Egdag Barley, or whatever his name is.
Have you heard anything more? Because there was things going around last season about possible points deduction because they declared a lot of things that Abramovich did a bit.
Yeah, so we actually reported ourselves.
You reported yourselves to the Premier League.
Yeah, that
obviously all the lights on Man City at the moment with their stuff that's going on. But is there still something behind the scenes with Chelsea?
Not really. That Chelsea keep
exposing loopholes, and then the Premier League keep closing those loopholes.
Yeah,
I kind of think that the Premier League need to hire whoever your lawyers are and keep finding these loopholes before the Premier League does.
I mean, there's an interesting thing on that because particularly, so anything that brings money into the club is considered an asset. Now, obviously, we had car parks, we had the hotels, facilities at the training ground and stuff like that. So they are actually classed as assets to the club. So you're well within your rights to sell those assets along with players. And then all that then does feed back into your budget for PSR.
Yeah.
I do believe this is the last year currently of this current PCR set of rulings. And
I think it is.
And as regards these loopholes, it actually went to, particularly for the hotel thing, so it actually went to a Premier League vote, and 14 of the Premier League clubs actually voted in favour of keeping the current rules on their assets, i.e., if they got into financial trouble, they could then go, right, we're going to sell a car park. So it's not something that the mass majority of Premier League clubs are against. Obviously, we thought of it and done it first. But
because you were the first one to really kind of introduce these 7-year contracts to split the payments over all those years, and then they reduced it down to say no, you can only split it over 5 years now.
So if you're in a European competition, UEFA closed the loophole on that before we started doing that. So, but we weren't currently in the European competition. So any players that we were signing at that period, we could sign them on however long a contract we liked. Now the Premier League, I believe, are now falling in line with UEFA in terms of a max of a 5-year contract, I believe. But there's ways around that as well, because you can sign a 5-year contract, but it doesn't actually. There's no actual rules on what you can do once that contract's signed. You can then extend. So you can then extend someone's contract. The initial contract and how the player's value is split between that contract is what it is. So you have that dedicated amount that then goes through the books on the PSR for that contract and that signing, etc., for wages, how much transfer you're paying per year on it. But yeah, it is what it is. We're good at it. We're finding these loopholes. It's something that they do a lot in American contract franchises, in baseball and NHL and stuff like that, and American football, etc. And obviously that's something, that kind of business model seems to be what our ownership group want to implant in terms of the way they run the club and as a business, etc. If it keeps us the right side of financial fair play, I'm not necessarily against it. Does it mean that we remain competitive? I'm not so sure, because it's too much turnover every year in terms of players in and out, and I don't think we get a set squad.
So I mean, this is also the other question I've got with regards to your Chelsea ownership. I mean, obviously with this model to bring in these young players and then to try and grow a team, is that the aim, to grow this team over time to become more and more competitive? Or do you see a lot of these players that have been brought in, selling them on when they reach their full potential? But what do you reckon?
I think that's
their
what
priority. Do. What their priority will be, rather to keep very talented players that have reached that potential and can improve the side, or will they just see money signs and think, no, we can make a good profit on this?
I think a bit of both. I think that there will be if they can get players in with potential. Well, I know that they're looking at following what Madrid have done the last couple of years and looking to the South American market, we've already signed a couple of young Brazilian players that will be joining us once they reach 18. And they're up there with what Real Madrid have done with Vinicius Junior, and then more recently with Endrick, who's obviously come straight into Madrid and hit the ground running. So that's something, exposing ourselves to the South American market, because the potential for then selling a player on for huge profits, particularly to the European powerhouses, is something, obviously. But then they can then reinvest that money back into 8, 9, 10 youngsters who still have potential to go again. Does that to give you a consistency of team selection if you're constantly changing that? And obviously it would require a specific type of manager who would be happy to work under those kind of conditions, which is my guessing why they've then hired the manager we have.
Yeah,
because Premier League jobs don't come around. Big jobs don't come around often.
I think because I think a lot of the conversation at the time was when Maresca was signed, is that Bowley's got his yes man, basically. He's got his yes man, the person who would just agree. Where Pochettino did not seem happy to work under the structure that
no, particularly when we brought in. I mean, we brought in 2 sporting directors. How that works, I don't know. So you've got Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart, who are the ones now that are in charge of club structure, sign-ins, identifying targets and stuff like that, contract negotiations. So Clear Lake and Bowie are kind of taking that little bit of a step back, and they'll sign the checks, but it's really now down to these 2 guys in particular to run the business and produce the players. It's a data-driven system, very, very similar to what Brighton have had in place in the last few years, which has worked incredibly for them. They bought, and even Billy Gilmore, when they took Billy Gilmore off of us for next to nothing, and then they've knocked him on, to Napoli for an enormous amount of money, really, for them, which they'll put into their data system and recharge the squad again. And I think that's something that we're looking to do, but maybe on a slightly bigger scale, with a lot more players in and out. But I mean, we can't compete. I mean, not even like money wise in terms of like match day revenue, etc., like that. We can't even compete with yourself. We just haven't. Stamford Bridge only holds 41,000. It's limited. There's so many hurdles in terms of what we can and can't do with the club.
Haven't you identified a new site to potentially build a new site?
So this has been on the agenda since Roman Abramovich bought the club. He tried to look at initially Earls Court first of all. Then he tried to look at purchasing Battersea Power Station, creating a stadium and around a retail infrastructure there. And now that Clear Lake and that, they're looking at Earls Court again. But nothing can happen with the club, thanks to Ken Bates going back all those years when he bought the club for £1. So the club we nearly went under. Ken Bates bought the club for £1, and he created the Chelsea Pitch Owner scheme, which meant that nothing could happen with the name Chelsea FC or the freehold to the pitch and that name without a 75% of the Chelsea pitch owners voting and agreeing for anything to happen. So you can't knock down Stamford Bridge. You can't move the club to another location or do anything with Stamford Bridge or the name of the club unless the Chelsea pitch owners agree to it.
So are they fans? A lot of them.
It's fan led. Yeah, it's fan led.
Yeah,
which is great because it protects Stamford Bridge. A bit of a hindrance in terms of you want to build a big stadium, but
how do the fans feel on general about potentially moving from Stamford Bridge?
I mean, in an ideal world,
you haven't really got a lot of You haven't really got expansion options there, do you?
No. So behind, so where you've got the east stand goes down one side, and then you've got the opposite end to the shed, the Matty Harding end. You've got the train tracks, the District Line, which runs into Fulham Broadway. So in terms of, we can't really go out currently as it stands because of some archaic rule that you can't break the sight line to St Paul's Cathedral. We can't go up. So you literally have to knock everything down and build the ground down into the ground. So you're not going above the current height structure of what it is, which means demolishing the hotel, which we've just sold, You're literally knocking down the whole stadium and starting again. It can be done.
Yeah, you did sell it to yourselves, didn't you?
We did, yeah. So it's now owned by Blueco, which is the controlling parent company of the club. So yeah, so there's conversations to be had about whether. But yeah, again, it's a loophole. We've exposed it.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
because I don't think a lot of people had too much of an issue with Chelsea selling the hotels and making some money. I think it was more Chelsea selling the hotels to themselves.
Yeah,
and making the money.
The thing is, Earls Court is about as much in Chelsea as Chelsea is in Fulham. So I mean, it's not like we're leaving Chelsea area. We don't play in Chelsea. We play in Fulham. We play in South West 6. We're at Fulham Broadway. So it's not like it's like a massive upheaval in terms of going somewhere else. And if it moves the club forward and we can be competitive with having a 60,000 seater stadium really does put this in terms of commercial revenue. Having it as a multi-use stadium, it just brings more revenue into the club, and there should be sensible conversations about whether or not we can make that happen at Stamford Bridge, and I'm not sure we can, not cost effectively.
So technically, it's the fourth smallest in London, isn't it? I think. I think London Stadium is just top. Then it's the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And then it's the Emirates. And then I think it's Stamford Bridge, isn't it? And this is what you've got. Palace is like 25.
Yeah, Fulham now are pushing on 30 with a new stand. Brentford only holds about 25-ish.
I think Brentford's like 18 or so. It
could be. It could be. It's quite a small stadium, the Brentford Community Stadium. So in terms of that, I mean, if you want to be competitive, you've got to have a stadium that matches your aspirations, and we don't currently have that. Stamford Bridge is a very nice little stadium. It served us well, but the other, when I look at what happened with particularly Tottenham having to go and play at Wembley for that time, and it didn't really go brilliantly for them. It's a worry. But we're not really in a mode at the moment where we're necessarily threatening for trophies anyway. So maybe it's the right time to get all this done while we're in this kind of transition period.
Yeah, but I mean that kind of leads back to that other question: how many more transition periods are you going to be experiencing over the next few years? Because technically, you are in another one with another new manager coming in. And if this doesn't work, is there going to be another new manager? Because I think Chelsea have gone past the point where they move on managers 3 or 4 a season. You know what I mean? They didn't move on.
Yeah, I mean, we thought
to give a manager a season, because I think there was a lot of calls for Pochettino to leave at several points last season, but they gave him the whole season.
I was very much a Poch in fan, and I think we should have given him time. I know things weren't great in terms of the transfer structure and whatnot, and the working relationship with the ownership and that. I just think that if you want to win trophies, you have to have, particularly if you're going to try and take on City, you're trying to get back towards that top 4. You've got to have an elite level manager, and an elite level mentality as an ownership. And I don't think we haven't got that. They've had the club for a couple of years now. So you would think that they would put people in place that understand what's required to be competitive and still have a business model that's going to generate funds where we don't have the stadium, etc., to do that. But we're a long way off it, and we are. I mean, and we scraped the barrel getting into the Conference League, and I think it's still a competition we should take seriously.
I do.
I do because it's qualification for another European competition. If you win it, you get put into the Europa League. So and we may not even qualify for that league position wise. So
no, I mean it's so up and down because there's so much competition in it, and I think it's definitely a competition that Chelsea can win. I actually think it's probably maybe slightly easier to win it this season compared to other seasons because there's no drop down from the Europa League, so the teams that are in it now are the only teams that are going to be in it. So there's no danger of some slightly stronger teams coming into it. So it's a really good opportunity for Chelsea to win it, and I think you would be the first team to win all the European
trophy.
trophies that are currently
Still
available.
the only London team to have a Champions League.
Yeah, no, you are.
Yeah. Where are you, Arsenal? Where are you, Spurs?
Yeah, we could sit here and laugh at Tottenham and Arsenal. I mean, Arsenal drew their Champions League game tonight, didn't they? Lads said 0-0.
Yeah, I missed it because obviously I was working and I haven't seen the results as of yet. But yeah, I was listening on the radio in the car, and I know that Raya pulled off an unbelievable double save from a penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I need to check the highlights. But yeah.
Well, just we're ending shortly, but I just want to get your view on just one more thing. Just quickly about managers. Over the years, Chelsea have been famous for moving on managers quite a lot. You know, if they don't work out within half a season, they're moving them on. Now, a couple of seasons ago, I think we saw something like there was only 7 or 8 managers that finished the season after starting it. So not last season, but the season before. And then suddenly something changed last season because we saw very few managerial changes last season. Do you think that's the new trend now among Premier League clubs to try and stick with managers a little bit more than they have done in the past?
I think that purely comes down to money. Or
do you reckon it's got to do with PSR? Because Chelsea have spent a hell of a lot of money. I think, aren't they still paying Graham Potter at the moment? Who left 2 years ago?
I think we're still paying him until he gets a job.
Yeah.
So, and then touching on that, your actual last point on that, I think, is the key one. I think clubs are too frightened about the financial situations to make a change. So it's kind of like, we'll stick with it because it's going to cost us X amount to sack a guy. Then, depending on who we go for, it's going to cost us this, and we're still going to be paying the other guy until he gets another job, unless we can reach a settlement. They go on gardening leave. I think it was. I think it's a case of clubs being a little bit more cautious in terms on their outgoings.
So you reckon it's got more to do with the outgoings rather than clubs looking at it and thinking maybe the best thing is to try and give a manager a little bit more time?
Yeah, no, I think it comes down to. I mean, there may well be chairmen that do have a belief that they have picked the right man and they're going to stick with it and they're going to give him time and try and give him the equipment they need. But I do think that the PSR issue plays a massive part in that. I think we've seen that even in the transfer market and how people have been a little bit clever, yet again following the loophole that we set with. In terms of like selling a homegrown player to one club and that club then selling a homegrown player who's never played a minute back to that club that just bought a player for them. So they're shifting around the whole pure profit thing. So I think the money side of it has really, in terms of the PSR, has really changed the infrastructure about how all transfers, including managers. I mean, I've seen a lot of things with clubs that are starting to put buyout clauses in managers' contracts, so at quite high levels to protect themselves from a club coming in and taking their manager.
Yeah, West Ham had something like that because I think we were looking at Almiron and we had to pay like 20 million to get him out of his contract or something like that. But I think West Ham were also very clever in what we've done with Lopetegui because he's got a 2-year contract with an option for a third, and he only gets the third if he gets us into Europe. If he doesn't get us European football, that he doesn't have that option. So I think that's why, like West Ham, we plan on keeping him for this season because I think as long as we don't get relegated and we stay okay, he'll still be manager going into next season. Because I think West Ham understand, like with a project like we're doing, where we're bringing in so many players, it may take a little bit longer for it to, for it to be perfected.
Unless the results are so drastically bad that you're kind of almost in a position where you've got to say, listen, we've got this wrong. It's coming up to Christmas. Results ain't where they need to be. If we're going to do it, we need to make a change now. Get a manager in a few weeks before the new transfer window opens so he can assess his squad and etc. I think this season, that may be where we see clubs that are struggling make changes. I think it will be that. But But I don't foresee that happening with you.
No.
I think he's such an experienced manager with a pedigree of clubs that he's managed. You have to give him time, and you have to give him a couple of windows to get the squad in a position of what he wants, to be able to do what he wants. But I don't think your ownership are necessarily, I think they do give managers time. From what I've seen, maybe they gave Moyes 1 or 2 seasons more than the fans wanted, but he put a trophy.
I think they gave Moyes the length of his contract, and I didn't really have an issue with him getting the length of his contract. I didn't want to see him being offered a new contract because I thought his time was done at West Ham United.
Yeah.
He'd run his course. Things were only going to go downhill. It felt natural. And that's one of the things that really kind of annoyed me a lot at the time, where people were like, "Oh, you sacked one of your best managers." We never sacked him. No. His contract ended. We didn't offer him a new deal, and we left on mutual terms.
Thank you very much. You've been amazing. Second time around.
Yeah, you've done great, and now it's time for us to move on and try something different. Does the different thing necessarily work first time?
Always. No. We've seen that in many clubs.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean we were wrong to move on and try something else. And
I mean, I would be relatively happy that you're having the ambition to go, okay, we've done all right, but if we're really going to push on, we maybe got to look at it in a different light, slightly different type of football, a different direction. And if you don't try, you can go back and go down maybe a homegrown manager route again, and not a bit more pragmatic, settle things until you're at a position where you can go again with something different. But if you don't try and you stagnate and you sit still, then it's very easy to then become embroiled in, if the club don't move forward, then you end up dropping, and you end up dropping like Everton.
Yeah, well, this is why we're really hoping that Everton do sack Dyche soon, so David Moyes can go there. So then we have no chance whatsoever of re-signing David Moyes again. The fan base was it was so toxic. The fan base near the end, and I think that was also one of the main reasons that things had to. It was time for David Moyes to go, because it was only going to get more and more toxic. You had Moyes in, Moyes out, and it was now. Unfortunately, you've got some who didn't want Lopetegui in to begin with, and they are. They will go down the same route as the ones who never wanted Moyes in for.
But you can't please everyone. That's the thing. Whoever you appoint, there's always going to be a level of opposition towards it, or people will find a problem with it, etc. I think just when they're there, get behind the team. Give them everything on a Saturday in the stadium, and if it don't work out, and you can vent at the end of the game and have your boo and give them a bit of abuse, etc. And the keyboard warriors will be out online, But I think if there's a negative atmosphere within the stadium, obviously players will pick up on that as well. I think you just got to get behind them, and we'll do the same. We'll try and do the same with Maresca. We might not always agree with tactical decisions, etc., but support what you've got out there on the pitch. That's always been my philosophy. And then have your discussions on, online in your own forums, etc., and debate what went wrong or what should happen, etc. But when you're in there, give everything for the players that are wearing the shirt, and if you can try and inspire them, the old 12th man rule from the stands. You might just get an extra 5% out of them on the pitch.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean we always seem to up our game for the Chelsea games anyway. So I am hoping that the atmosphere will be good and the game will be good and it'll be an enjoyable watch. So we're ending there, but before we go, we've got to do the predictions, of course. And I'm going to start off with you. Then I'll tell you what the score's going to be.
I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw.
Oh, you're sitting on the fence. 2-2 draw. The fence.
I think there'll be goals in it. I don't think defensively we will keep you out. I think, but I do think we're capable of getting a couple of goals. Got enough attacking talent, but yeah, I'll go with a draw. I
agree. There's going to be goals, and I agree that each team is going to score at least 2 each. It's just I do think that West Ham are going to score 1 more, and we are going to win the game 3-2. I've just got the feeling that we are.
Unfortunately, I'm going to isolate myself away from the game and the score. Phone is I'm at work, so I can't watch it. Unfortunately, but I'm going to record it and then watch it back. Headphones on, locked in my room. So everything that happens will be a complete surprise for me. I'm staying off of TikTok. I'm staying off of BBC websites. Everything.
So you don't want me WhatsApping you, like?
No. Notifications on my phone are going off. The phone's going in aeroplane mode.
Just a big smile emoji.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. All right. Fine. No. WhatsApp. I won't. So I'll be at the game. So I'm looking forward to it. Some very memorable West Ham Chelsea games over the years, and hopefully this will be another one. And hopefully we see a repeat of what happened at the London Stadium last season, not what happened at Stamford Bridge. For me personally, anyway. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Ajay. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, it's been great. As I say, this guy right here, one second, is from the Talk Football podcast. You can find him at Talk Football Podcast, Alan there, and he chats with everyone, right? Everyone. Everyone's just welcome. Not like Chelsea fans. He talks about West Ham, Tottenham fans, Derby fans, other leagues. Yeah, just anyone that wants to talk football. So make sure you go over and check him out, because this very kind gentleman here was the first person to ever invite me onto a podcast. God, when was that?
It's still it's about 18 months.
It was about this time. It was about this time last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it could be. It's about a year. Yeah.
Wasn't it just after the Chelsea? Or just before? I think we might have done this.
I've got all my episodes in front of me, so I can actually tell you. We'll have a look.
I think it.
I will find it. I think it was about a year. And it's still it's still one of the very most it could even be the most popular in terms of download episodes I've actually had on there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was very, very, very popular. People really engaged with it. There was a lot of messages that I got. It was a really good pod.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Well, that's why you want me back on.
That's why I want you back
on. Well, we will arrange.
For what I lack in viewers and whatnot, my PR and marketing skills are pretty on point.
Right, well, I'll probably give this show a little bit of promote on TikTok as well. And Hodgie is also on TikTok as well. You know where to find me, West Ham Fan 86. Where can I find you on TikTok? Is it
it's Talk Football podcast, and we also have Instagram, and but yeah, I'm on audio, YouTube, everywhere. So it goes out on everything. But yeah, I mean, the best way, obviously, I kind of find to engage is through the Instagram and particularly through the TikTok. That's the best place where I put up little videos and clips, etc., and where I have my points of view for people to comment on. That's it. I'm on everything. I'm a social media. Can't say that word, but yeah, we're everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Hodgie. Really do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
It's absolute pleasure.
Thank you to everyone who has watched the stream tonight. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And there'll be videos out from match vlogs. And I shall be back next Tuesday for Alex's TikTok takeover over on the main West Ham network. And who we got? Oh yeah, we've got Liverpool next week as well. Yeah, we'll have to talk after Liverpool and Anfield, difficult. But we got just sort out Chelsea first, and then we'll worry about Liverpool. Anyway, thank you very much for joining. I hope you've enjoyed the chat. Have a good night, and come on, you Irons. See you later.